The twin suns of planet Arden rose slowly over the wide plains, lighting the burned remains of what once was a proud human farm. Wind carried the smell of smoke and dry soil. Blackened stalks bent under the soft morning breeze. The storm that came 2 weeks ago had changed everything. It did not rain water. It rained fire. Plasma lightning tore across the sky and burned everything that could burn. In the middle of that dead land, a man named Ryan stood beside a broken irrigation pump. His left arm held a wrench. His right arm was gone from the shoulder down, lost during the storm when he tried to save his last working harvester. The memory of that night still haunted him when he closed his eyes. He remembered the sound of metal cracking, the burning pain, and the flash of light. Now the farm stood silent. Only the hum of the damaged generator broke the quiet. Ryan was a simple man. He had grown up here when the soil was still rich and the rivers clear. His father used to say that humans had brought life to Arden. They turned an empty world into green land through work and patience. Ryan believed that once, but now when he looked at the ashes, he felt that the planet had taken its revenge. He bent down and tried to fix the pump again. The wrench slipped and water sprayed across the dirt, soaking his worn boots. He cursed under his breath but kept working. The colony traders would come soon to check his crops. He had nothing left to sell. Without credits, he could not buy seed or fuel. Without seed or fuel, the land would die for good. A soft sound came from his small home behind the field. The old communication unit was blinking. Ryan wiped the sweat from his forehead and went inside. The air inside was hot. A fan turned weakly on the ceiling. He pressed a button and a hollow screen came to life. A young voice from the colony office appeared. "Ryan of Field 12, the voice said. "You have missed 2 payment cycles. If you cannot deliver your next load of grain, the land will be reclaimed by the Trade Council." Ryan clenched his jaw. "Tell the council they can take it when they can grow food from ashes," he said. The screen went dark. He stood there for a long moment, looking at the empty chair across the room. His wife had died 3 years earlier in a mining accident. They never had children. Since then, the house had grown cold and quiet. Some nights, Ryan talked to himself just to hear a voice. He had never imagined he would end up like this. Half a man on a dying farm, forgotten by the rest of humanity. After a while, he sat by the table and opened his old data pad. The colony network still worked even when most of his machines did not. He searched for trade jobs, cargo work, or anything that could earn him credits. Nothing was available. The pirates in the outer rings had cut off many supply routes, and ships were not hiring. Then at the bottom of the screen, an advertisement flashed in soft blue letters. "Alien Companionship Program, build a future together." Ryan almost laughed. He had seen such things before. Lonely colonists paying for companionship through interspecies cultural programs. It sounded strange, maybe even foolish, but something about the words made him pause. Build a future together. He had tried building one alone and failed. Maybe it was foolish to hope, but he was tired of silence. He tapped the message. The screen showed a simple form asking for name, occupation, and location. It promised a match within 30 planetary days, depending on compatibility. The program was run by the Union of Settled Worlds, a cooperation project meant to create understanding between species. Ryan thought it sounded more like a desperate way for people to find comfort in lonely places. He closed the form. Then he opened it again. His hand hesitated over the submit button. He looked out the window. The sky had turned orange. The sun burned low behind the hills, making the air shimmer with heat. The fields looked like endless waves of rust. For the first time, Ryan felt truly old. Not in years, but in spirit. He whispered to himself, maybe a little company would not hurt. He filled the form and pressed submit. The screen blinked and said, "Thank you for joining. Your application has been received. Estimated match arrival 30 days. Ryan sat there, unsure what he had just done. He half expected a message saying it was a mistake, but none came. The next morning, he went back to work. He repaired fences, checked the solar panels, and gathered what little food remained. The days passed slowly. Each night, he looked up at the stars and wondered what kind of person would travel light years to a broken farm on a forgotten world. 2 weeks later, a message arrived. The hollow unit beeped and showed a short text. "Your match has been approved. Arrival coordinates confirmed. Shuttle ETA, 5 days." Ryan blinked. He read the message again to make sure he understood. Someone was actually coming. He walked outside and stared at the sky, feeling both nervous and foolish. He had not spoken to another living soul in weeks. Now an alien stranger would be here soon. During those 5 days, he cleaned the house as best he could. He fixed the front gate and polished the old dining table. He found his late wife's favorite cup and placed it carefully on the shelf, as if she were watching him. He wanted the place to look like a home, not a graveyard. The day of arrival came quietly. The sky was clear and the twin suns were high. Ryan stood near the field, his one arm resting against the fence. A faint hum grew louder in the air. A small silver shuttle appeared from the clouds and descended slowly toward the ground. Dust and wind swirled as it landed near the old barn. Ryan's heart beat fast. The shuttle door opened with a hiss and a figure stepped out. She was taller than he expected, graceful in movement. Her skin shone with a faint silver hue and her eyes were large and deep like polished stone. She wore a simple travel suit and carried a small bag. Her hair was short and dark blue, cut evenly around her shoulders. She looked around, then smiled when she saw Ryan. "Are you Rian of Field 12? She asked in a soft, clear voice. "Yes," he said, feeling awkward. "You must be from the program," she nodded. "My name is Liran of Vera. I have been assigned as your companion and work partner under the Union Exchange Project." Rian scratched his chin. "You came a long way for a place like this." "It's not much." Liran looked across the burned land. Her eyes moved slowly over every detail. The damaged barn, the half-broken machines, the dry soil. Yet she did not look disappointed. She smiled again and said, "Every place has value when someone still believes in it." Rian felt something strange stir inside him. No one had spoken kindly to him in a long time. He helped her carry the small bag into the house. Inside, Liran looked around with interest. "You live here alone," she said gently. "Yes," he replied. It was different once. She did not ask questions about the missing arm or the empty chair. Instead, she placed her bag down and asked, "Where do you need help first?" Ryan blinked. "You want to work already?" She nodded. "I am not here for comfort. I am here to build a life. Show me what must be done." They walked to the field. Ryan explained how the irrigation lines had failed, how the soil needed treatment, and how the old machines barely functioned. Liran listened closely. Then she knelt beside the broken pump and touched the metal. Her fingertips glowed faintly as she hummed a tone. The pump made a clicking sound and started to move. Water began to flow weakly through the line. Rian stared in shock. "You fixed it already?" "Just a small adjustment," she said with a smile. Technology is universal when you understand its rhythm. For the first time in months, water trickled through the dry soil. Ryan felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. That evening, they sat outside watching the sun set. Liran spoke about her world, Vera, where the oceans glowed at night and plants sang in the wind. Ryan listened quietly. When she asked about Earth, he told her about rain, trees, and the sound of waves. She said it sounded beautiful. As the night came, the stars appeared across the dark sky. Ryan looked at them and thought how strange life could be. A one-armed farmer and an alien woman sitting together on a burned world, both trying to start again. He did not know then that this meeting would change his life, his world, and even the balance between species. For now, all he felt was the quiet peace of not being alone anymore. Morning light spread across the plains of Arden. The air was cool and soft. Ryan stepped outside, stretching his back and feeling a rare sense of energy. For the first time in many months, someone else was inside the small house. The sounds of movement, the clatter of dishes, and a quiet hum came from the kitchen. He had forgotten what it felt like to wake up and not hear silence. Inside, Liran stood by the cooking unit. She had learned how to use it from the manual overnight. Steam rose from a small pot. She turned when Ryan entered. Her silver eyes caught the sunlight and glowed faintly. "Good morning, Ryan," she said kindly. "I prepared food using local ingredients. I hope it is acceptable." Rian blinked. "You cooked already. You must have woken up before sunrise." Liran smiled. "On my world, we begin work early. The air is cleaner then and the mind is calm." She placed 2 bowls on the table. Ryan sat down and tasted the meal. It was simple, just boiled roots and dried meat, but she had added herbs that gave a new flavor. It reminded him of the meals his mother used to make when he was young. "This is good," he said honestly. "I am glad," Liran replied. "We will need strength today. The irrigation system is half active. I checked it before breakfast. Some of the channels are blocked by dust and debris. If we clear them, the flow will reach the far field. Ryan raised an eyebrow. You did all that before I woke up? She nodded calmly. I like to understand my surroundings. It helps me work better. Ryan had met many colonists who talked about work but did little. Lyra was different. She was quiet, focused, and moved with a purpose. It made him wonder what kind of place she came from. After they finished breakfast, they walked out to the field together. The suns were rising fast. The dry soil gleamed red. Lyra carried a small toolkit she had unpacked from her bag. Each tool was strange and smooth, shaped from transparent metal. She knelt beside a pipe joint and touched it. A soft hum came from the tool in her hand. The joint opened with no effort. Inside, dust had piled up like sand. She cleaned it carefully and sealed it again. The water began to move faster through the pipe. Ryan watched in silence. Those tools of yours, he said. They are better than anything the colony uses. Lyra glanced at him. They are standard on my planet. Would you like me to teach you how to use them? He smiled faintly. With one arm, I am not sure I can. She looked at his missing arm for a moment. Her expression did not show pity, only thought. You have learned to live without it, she said. That takes great strength. Ryan shrugged. Strength or habit? Maybe both. They worked until noon. When the water started flowing evenly, the field glistened with tiny streams. The air smelled of wet earth. Ryan felt something inside him begin to stir again. The farm was not dead. It could still live. At midday, they rested under the shade of the barn. Lyra drank slowly from a flask, her gaze distant. Ryan noticed how calm she looked. Her presence made the air around her feel steady, almost peaceful. Why did you join this program? Ryan asked suddenly. You seem too skilled for this kind of life. Lyra looked at him with a soft smile. My world is beautiful but full of pride. My family expected me to live by their rules. I wanted to see other ways of life. When I read about this program, it seemed like a way to start fresh and learn what honest work feels like. Ryan nodded slowly. So you came all this way for peace? Yes, she said. And maybe purpose. Every being needs something to build. He respected that answer. They sat together in silence for a while, listening to the sound of the running water. Later that day, they repaired one of the broken solar panels. Ryan showed her how to lift it with the small loader. She learned quickly. Her hands moved with precision. She tightened the bolts, adjusted the alignment, and restored power to the generator. When the light came back to the farmhouse, Ryan felt proud. You learned faster than anyone I have met, he said. I was trained in engineering, she replied. It is my nature to fix things. Ryan laughed quietly. Then you came to the right place. Everything here is broken. She looked at him with warmth. Then we will fix it, one thing at a time. By the end of the week, the farm began to change. The irrigation system worked again. The generator was stable. The barn roof was patched, and the storage units were organized. Lyra worked without complaint, and Ryan found himself smiling more often. Each evening they shared stories. Ryan told her about Earth. He described forests, oceans, and rain that fell soft and cool. Lyra listened with deep attention. She told him about Vera, where the night sky shimmered with green light and the oceans were alive with floating gardens. Her voice was smooth, and her stories painted pictures in his mind. Sometimes she would hum a tune from her homeland. The sound was unlike any human music. It felt both strange and comforting. Ryan often sat quietly just to listen. One night, as they watched the stars, Ryan asked, Do you ever miss your world? Lyra's eyes stayed on the sky. Every day, she said softly. But sometimes you must leave what you love to understand why you loved it. My people taught me many things, but they never taught me how to be simple. Here I am learning that. Ryan nodded. Simplicity is all I have left. She turned to him. And that is why you survived. Her words stayed in his mind long after she went to sleep. He realized he had begun to look forward to each new day, not because of the farm, but because of her. As the days passed, small green shoots appeared across the field. The soil, once dead, now held life again. Lorraine spent hours studying the plants, adjusting water flow and recording data. Rian worked beside her, guiding the machines and checking the fences. One afternoon, they discovered a problem. The water pressure had dropped in the main pipe. Ryan suspected a blockage near the old well. They walked there together. The air was hot and still. The well cover was half buried in sand. Ryan lifted it with his remaining arm and peered inside. "Looks deep," he said. "The blockage is down there somewhere." Liren leaned closer. "I can reach it. My suit can resist heat and dust." Before he could stop her, she climbed down carefully using the metal rungs. The light faded as she went deeper. Ryan waited above, feeling uneasy. After several minutes, her voice echoed up. "I found it. A nest of sandworms blocked the valve. I'm clearing it now." Ryan called down, "Be careful. Those things can bite." "I will be fine," she replied. Soon after, the sound of rushing water filled the well. Lyrian climbed back up, her hands covered in wet sand. She looked tired but smiling. "The flow is restored," she said. Rian shook his head in disbelief. "You risked that just for a few plants." "Not for plants," she said. "For hope. Every drop of water means another chance." He felt speechless for a moment. Her words carried a quiet strength that made him see his own land differently. That evening, the sun set behind the hills, painting the sky gold and red. They sat outside again, eating the simple meal she had cooked. The sound of flowing water came from the field, soft and steady. Ryan felt peace settle in his chest. "You have done more for this farm in 1 week than I managed in months," he said. Lyran shook her head. "You had already done the hardest part. You stayed." Her tone was gentle, yet it carried truth. Ryan realized she saw value in things he had long forgotten to appreciate. After dinner, Lyran looked thoughtful. "Ryan," she said, "do you believe in destiny?" He hesitated. "I used to believe in work and luck. Destiny sounds too grand for farmers." She smiled. "On my world, destiny is not about power. It is about meeting the right people at the right time." Ryan met her gaze and felt his heart beat faster. He looked away quickly. "Maybe," he said. "But right now, destiny still owes me a good harvest." "Then we will make it pay," she said firmly. Over the next few days, Laren began to attract attention. Small scout drones from nearby colonies flew overhead more often. They scanned the area, their lights blinking. Ryan assumed they were checking land conditions, but Lyran seemed uneasy each time one passed. "Those drones," she said one evening, "do they belong to your colony council?" "Yes," Ryan answered. "They inspect farms sometimes." "Why?" Lyran hesitated. "Their signals are unusual. They are not standard models. Someone is observing this place more closely than expected." Ryan frowned. "Who would care about a burned farm?" "I do not know," she said quietly, "but it is better to stay alert." She began to set up small signal blockers around the property. Ryan did not question her. He trusted her judgment. Still, a thought lingered in his mind. Lyran was not just a worker. She carried knowledge and equipment beyond normal exchange participants. He wondered if her past was more complicated than she let on. Yet he decided not to ask. Everyone had secrets, and she had earned his trust through action. One morning, Rian woke before dawn. He saw Lyran outside, standing alone near the field. Her head was tilted toward the sky. A faint light pulsed from a small crystal she held in her hand. She whispered words in her own language, soft and melodic. Ryan watched quietly from the doorway. When she noticed him, she closed her hand and smiled as if nothing had happened. "Morning meditation," she said. "It helps me focus." Ryan nodded, though he knew it was something more, but he did not press her. Instead, he joined her in silence as the first rays of sunlight touched the fields. Together, they watched the green sprouts move gently in the wind. Night had fallen across the wide plains of Arden. The twin moons rose slowly, casting pale silver light over the newly grown fields. The crops shimmered gently in the cool wind. Inside the small farmhouse, the lamps glowed warm and steady. Rian sat by the table, checking the data readings from the irrigation system. The numbers looked better than he had seen in months. Water flow was stable, soil moisture was balanced, and energy output from the solar panels had reached full efficiency. He smiled with quiet satisfaction. Across the room, Liren sat by the window, watching the stars. Her face was calm, but her eyes seemed far away. Ryan noticed she had been more silent than usual that evening. He set the datapad down. "You are quiet tonight," he said softly. Liren turned her head slightly and smiled. "Just thinking about home. Do you miss it?" He asked. "I do," she said, "but not the way you might think. I miss the sound of the oceans and the scent of the wind. But I do not miss the life I had there." Ryan leaned back in his chair. What kind of life was it? For a long moment she did not answer. Then she said, "One filled with duty, rules, and faces that smiled only when others were watching. My family was part of the Veyran Trade Guild. They controlled most of the commerce routes between the inner and outer systems. On Vera, power decides who you are." Rian raised an eyebrow. "So you were rich," she gave a soft laugh. "Yes, but wealth can be a cage when it is not earned by your own hands. My family wanted me to marry into another guild. It would have joined 2 trading empires, but I wanted no part in that world." Rian listened closely. Her tone was calm, but her eyes carried a shadow of pain. "I ran away," she continued. "The program you joined offered a way to start again. A life where my name meant nothing. I thought if I worked hard and lived simply, I could learn what true worth feels like." Ryan was silent for a while. Then he said, "You found the right place for that. This land will teach anyone what work means." She smiled faintly. "Yes, it has already taught me much. It has also shown me what strength looks like." Ryan looked down at his missing arm. "Strength does not always win," he said quietly. "Strength is not about winning," she replied. "It is about standing up again when you fall." Her words stayed in his mind long after they finished their conversation. The next morning came with a gentle breeze. The fields shimmered with morning dew. Ryan and Liren worked side by side, repairing one of the small drones that measured soil quality. Liren's hands moved quickly and precisely. She taught Rian how to use one of her tools to connect the power lines. "You see," she said, "your machines are built with simple logic. Once you understand the pattern, repairs become easier." Rian nodded. "You make it sound simple. For me, it took years to learn." "Learning never ends," she said. "Even I am still learning every day." As they worked, Ryan noticed her gaze drift often toward the hills. She seemed to be watching something far away. When he followed her line of sight, he saw nothing but empty land. "Is something wrong?" he asked. She shook her head. "Perhaps I am only being careful. Sometimes I feel like we are not alone here." Ryan frowned. "You mean the colony drones?" "Maybe," she said. "But their patterns are not normal. They circle this area too often." He looked thoughtful. "No one cares about this farm except me. And maybe you." She smiled. "That may be true. Still, I will keep my eyes open." Later that week, a visitor came to the farm. A small colony transport stopped by the gate. From it stepped Marshal Bren, the local trade officer. He was a tall man with a stern face and narrow eyes. "Morning, Ryan," Bren said as he walked up the path. "I came to inspect your land. The council wants to know if you plan to renew your farming permit." Ryan wiped his hands on a cloth. "The crops are growing again. I will be ready for trade in 2 months." Bren looked around the field. His eyes rested on Liren, who was adjusting a solar unit nearby. "You hired off-world labor," he said coldly. "She is part of the union program," Ryan said firmly. "Everything is legal." Bren gave a short nod. Yes, I know about those programs. Still strange to see a Veyran here of all places." Liren turned and met his gaze without fear. "I am here by my own choice," she said. "This farm is my home now." Bren smiled faintly, but it was not a kind smile. "I am sure the council will find that very interesting." He turned back to Ryan. "Make sure you keep your records clean. Any irregularities and they will seize your property." Rian's jaw tightened. "Everything is in order." Bren gave a small nod and left. When his transport rose into the sky, Lorraine exhaled softly. He recognized me, she said quietly. Ryan turned to her. Are you sure? Yes, she said. His eyes told me. He knows who I am. Is that a problem? Maybe, she said. If the guilds learn I am here, they might come for me. They never forget debts of pride. Ryan crossed his arms. Let them come. This is my land. No one will take you from here. Lorraine looked at him with gratitude. Thank you. But we must stay prepared. That night Ryan could not sleep. He sat by the window watching the stars. He thought about what Liren had said. He had faced storms, fire, and hunger, but never the kind of danger that came from powerful people across the stars. He looked out at the fields. The new crops glowed faintly under moonlight. They were proof of how far they had come. He would not let anyone destroy that. He turned to see Liren standing at the door. She wore a long cloak and held a small device that glowed blue. You're still awake, she said softly. So are you, he replied. Could not sleep? No, she said. I am sending a message. Not to call anyone, only to warn them to stay away. If the guild tracks me here, I must protect you and the colony. Ryan frowned. You do not owe me anything. Yes, I do, she said firmly. You gave me a place to start again. That means more than you know. He said nothing. She walked outside, raised the device, and released a pulse of light into the sky. The signal vanished in seconds. When she returned, her expression was calm again. It is done, she said. They will not come soon. The following days passed in uneasy peace. Ryan focused on the farm. Liren continued her work, but she looked more serious than before. She began installing new systems on the farm, ones Ryan had never seen. What are these for? He asked as she placed small silver discs across the fence lines. They are defense emitters, she said. Non-lethal, but strong enough to disable intruders or drones. Just in case, Ryan shook his head with a smile. You think like a soldier, she answered quietly. On my world, every noble must learn defense. It is not strength we trust, it is preparation. He helped her place the last emitter near the well. By evening, the entire boundary shimmered faintly when activated. When night came, they stood side by side watching the faint lights of the fence. It felt strange and beautiful at the same time. 2 weeks later, a new problem appeared. The colony network sent a message that all farms would be inspected again due to pirate activity nearby. Ryan worried about losing his land if the council discovered Lyrian's hidden systems. We will handle it, Liren said calmly. I will deactivate the emitters for inspection. Nothing they find will look suspicious. Ryan nodded but felt uneasy. On the day of inspection, 2 drones hovered over the fields, scanning for energy readings. Bren arrived again in his transport, looking more serious than before. You have improved this place, Bren said, glancing around. Impressive. But some of our sensors detected unusual energy waves. Liren stepped forward. Those are from Varen tools. My species uses a different energy frequency. It is harmless. Bren looked at her, studying her face. You speak well for a worker. I speak as who I am, she replied firmly. Bren smirked. Yes, I can see that. I will report your progress to the council. They might want to visit in person next time. As he turned to leave, Ryan stepped forward. You have seen the land. It is healthy again. That is all that matters. Bren gave a short nod and walked away. The transport rose into the sky once more. When he was gone, Liren turned to Ryan. He is not just a trade officer. He works for someone higher. I felt it, Ryan frowned. You think he is working for your family? Perhaps, she said. Or for one of their rivals. Either way, the storm is coming closer. Ryan looked toward the horizon. Then we face it together. Liren's eyes softened. Together, she said. That night, the wind picked up again. Clouds covered the moons. The air smelled of metal and rain. Ryan stood by the barn, securing the tools before the storm. Liren joined him, her cloak whipping in the wind. Another storm? He asked. Yes, she said. But not of weather. Something greater is moving. I can feel it. Lightning flashed across the sky. The wind roared through the valley. The same kind of storm that once burned his farm now returned. But this time he was not alone. Ryan held the gate steady while Liren powered down the systems to prevent overload. Rain began to fall hard, washing over the soil. They worked through the night until the storm passed. When morning came, the land was soaked but still alive. The crops had survived. The new shields had held strong. Rian looked at Liren and smiled with relief. We did it, she smiled back. We did. As the sun rose again over Arden, the two stood side by side, tired but proud. The farm had endured another trial, and so had they. But far above in orbit, a small ship watched the farm through silent scanners. A signal blinked once and vanished into deep space, carrying the location of Field 12 to unknown hands. The piece they had built was about to be tested again. The sun of Arden hung low, painting the dusty sky with deep orange light. Ryan stood near the edge of his field, wiping sweat from his brow with his single hand. The crops had started to grow strong again, thanks to Liren's hard work and knowledge. The soil that once looked lifeless now glowed with green life. Machines buzzed quietly as they tilled and watered under her watchful eyes. The air was filled with the sound of progress. Rian finally felt a small peace in his heart after so long. Lorraine walked toward him carrying a basket of grain. Her movements were graceful and steady. She smiled when she saw how the plants swayed in the warm breeze. Your land is healing, she said softly. Ryan nodded, looking over the field. Our land, he corrected. She gave a small smile, and for the first time Ryan felt that the word ours had real meaning. But deep inside, both knew peace on Arden never lasted long. Strange drones had been spotted in the outer sky. The colony's communication lines picked up static signals, and traders whispered about pirates raiding nearby routes. These pirates were not ordinary thieves. They were a mix of humans and outlaws from different systems, armed with stolen weapons. They came for resources, ships, and sometimes entire colonies. That night Ryan could not sleep. He sat by the dim glow of his farm's power generator, listening to the hum of machines. Liren came out and sat beside him. She looked up at the stars, her eyes reflecting their cold light. You are worried, she said. Rian gave a tired smile. I just rebuilt this place. I can't lose it again. She stayed quiet for a long moment. Then she said, if danger comes, I will protect this land. I promise. Her voice carried a strength that made Rian believe her, but there was something hidden behind her calm tone. He wanted to ask, yet he stopped himself. Everyone had a past, and he knew hers was not simple. Days passed peacefully, but the silence felt heavy. Birds no longer sang in the nearby woods. Machines sometimes picked up strange interference. Then one evening, a loud blast echoed across the valley. A column of smoke rose from the eastern ridge. Rian and Liren ran outside. In the distance, they saw lights moving in formation. A group of pirate crafts was descending fast. The ground shook as their engines roared. Ryan rushed to his old defense station. His small rifle felt useless against ships. Liren followed, her face calm but her eyes sharp. They are scanning for resources, she said after checking the screen. They will come here next. Ryan tightened his grip on the rifle. We can't run. This is our home, Liren nodded. Then we defend it. As the pirate ships drew closer, the night filled with red light. Plasma bolts tore through the dark sky, striking the nearby barns. The air smelled of burning metal and smoke. Ryan's heart pounded as he aimed at the nearest raider who landed near the grain storage. He fired, and the blast sent the pirate running back to cover. Liren grabbed a control pad and activated the farm's emergency shields. Faint blue light spread across the fields, but it flickered under heavy fire. The pirates shouted orders through loudspeakers. Surrender your supplies or we take everything. Ryan shouted back. This land feeds the colony. You'll get nothing here. Liren turned toward him and said calmly, fall back inside. They will destroy everything if we stay out. Before he could answer, an explosion threw them both to the ground. Flames spread across the storage building. Ryan's ears rang as he tried to rise. He saw fire eating through the crops they had worked so hard to grow. The smell of smoke brought back painful memories of the first fire that had ruined his life. He stumbled forward, trying to save what he could, but a burning beam fell near him. Liren rushed to him, grabbing his shoulder. Ryan, you will be trapped. Come with me. I can't lose it again, he said, his voice shaking. Not after everything. Liren looked at him with deep sadness. Then let me help you save it another way. She reached into her robe and took out a small silver emblem. It was shaped like a star inside a circle, glowing with faint blue light. Ryan stared at it, confused. What is that? He asked. Liren pressed it to her palm and whispered in her language. The emblem lit up, sending a signal into the sky. A bright pulse raced upward through the clouds. Within moments, the pirates noticed. They fired toward her, but she held her ground. The emblem shimmered brighter and then vanished. Rian pulled her behind a wall. What did you do? I called for help, she said simply. Real help. Minutes later, the sky above Arden flashed white. Sleek silver ships appeared through the clouds, their hulls shining like mirrors. The pirate fleet tried to scatter, but the newcomers were faster. Precision beams cut through the enemy crafts, disabling engines without destroying them. The entire valley lit up with blue light as the attackers were captured in magnetic nets. Ryan watched in disbelief. Who are they? Liren's voice was calm. They are Varen guardians. They protect the trade guilds and noble houses of my world. Ryan turned to her. Why would they answer your call? She looked at him with quiet honesty. Because I am not who you think I am. I am Liren of House Vera, heir to the trade guild of the Eastern Rings. Ryan's mind went blank for a moment. You mean you are a noble? She nodded. I left my home to learn what life means beyond wealth and power. I wanted to see how humans live, how they work, how they love. But when I saw you trying to rebuild everything alone, I could not stay silent. The Varen ships landed around them. Tall armored figures stepped out, moving swiftly to put out fires and secure the area. The fields that had been burning were now covered with a soft mist that cooled the flames. Within minutes, the destruction stopped. Rian sat down heavily on the ground. The relief felt strange after such chaos. You saved my life, he said quietly. Liren looked at him and shook her head. You saved mine first. You gave me purpose again. He looked at her and saw that her eyes held no pride or distance, only kindness. For a long moment, they sat in silence, surrounded by the hum of alien ships repairing the damage. The fields were scorched, but they were alive. The soil could still grow again. As dawn broke, the captain of the Varen fleet approached Liren and bowed deeply. My lady, your signal reached us in time. The raiders will face justice. Liren nodded. Thank you, Captain. But I am not returning home. I will stay here. The captain looked surprised. Here, on this small farm? Yes, she said. This is where my future begins. When the fleet left, the valley was quiet once more. The alien machines had rebuilt what they could before departing. The barns stood tall again, the fences fixed, and the soil restored with special minerals. Ryan walked through the fields, amazed by how quickly everything had changed. He turned to Liren. You could have gone back to your world and lived in comfort. Why stay? She smiled gently. Because comfort is not life. I have seen enough luxury. What I found here is real. You fight for every grain of soil, for every breath of peace. That is strength. That is what my people have forgotten. Ryan felt something stir inside him, a deep respect mixed with gratitude. Then we build again, together, she nodded. Together. The morning wind carried the smell of fresh soil instead of smoke. The fire had returned, but so had hope. The land had burned twice, yet both times it rose again. Ryan looked at the rising sun and felt no fear this time. Beside him stood someone who had faced fire and fate with courage and grace. He realized that his missing arm did not make him weak. It reminded him that humans could stand tall even when broken. The pirates had tried to destroy his world, but instead they had revealed its strength. As the new day began, Ryan and Liren stood side by side, looking at the horizon. The farm was no longer a place of loss, it had become a symbol of unity. Two worlds, once distant, had met in struggle and found peace in each other, and above them, high in the bright morning sky, a single silver emblem floated down from the fading clouds, landing softly in the soil, a quiet promise that the fire would never win again. The morning sun rose over the plains of Arden, filling the valley with warm light. The soil, once scorched by storms and fire, now glowed with vibrant green. The crops swayed gently in the breeze, and the hum of machines mingled with the soft songs of birds returning to the fields. Rayan stood near the farmhouse, his single hand resting on the fence looking over the land. For the first time in years, he felt true peace. Beside him, Liren carried a basket filled with fresh vegetables. Her silver-tinged skin glowed faintly in the sunlight. She placed the basket on the table outside the barn. The harvest is coming well, she said, smiling. Even after everything, the plants have grown strong. Rian nodded, his eyes scanning the rows of crops. We did it, he said quietly. We survived storms, fire, and pirates. And now the farm is alive again. Liren shook her head gently. We did more than survive. We built something that will last. And we did it together. Their teamwork over the past weeks had created a rhythm. Each morning they worked side by side, tending the soil, fixing machines, and preparing the land. Each evening they shared stories and dreams while watching the twin moons rise. The farm had grown not only in crops but also in life. One afternoon, a transport ship descended from the sky. Its hull reflected the sunlight, shining like polished silver. Ryan and Liren walked toward it, curious. A figure stepped out, dressed in flowing robes that shimmered in soft colors. It was a representative from the Veyran Trade Guild, the noble house Liren had left behind. "My lady," the figure said, bowing deeply to Liren. "The council sends their greetings. They wish to offer assistance to secure this farm and its resources." Liren smiled politely. "Tell them no. I have chosen this place. My work here is my choice. I am not returning to the guild." The representative hesitated. "Are you certain?" "Your land is small and the colony is vulnerable. With our support, you would never worry about security or harvest." Liren shook her head. "I appreciate the offer, but I do not need a kingdom to grow crops. This land is enough and the people here are enough." Ryan looked at her, admiration shining in his eyes. "You turned away power for this," he said softly. She nodded. "True strength is not in wealth. It is in what we protect and nurture." The weeks passed and the farm flourished. The green fields stretched farther than Ryan had ever imagined. New irrigation channels flowed smoothly, and solar panels hummed with energy. Small animals returned to the area, and the colony traders began visiting again, impressed by the harvest. Ryan learned much from Liren. She taught him techniques from Vera to improve soil nutrients, manage water efficiently, and grow multiple crops together without exhausting the land. He also discovered that her knowledge went beyond agriculture. She knew how to organize trade, communicate with officials, and maintain security. Slowly, Ryan began to see the farm as more than land. It was a center of life, trade, and learning. One evening, after a long day in the fields, Ryan and Liren sat on the hill overlooking the farm. The sun painted the sky with orange and pink light. "You have changed this place completely," Ryan said. "I never imagined it could look like this again." Liren smiled. "You did not do it alone. You stayed and worked. You never gave up even when everything was gone. That is why it thrives." Ryan looked down at his missing arm and shook his head. "I feel like I am still broken." "You are not broken," Liren said gently. "You are human. You endure. You rebuild. That is strength far greater than any arm can provide." Her words touched something deep in him. For the first time, he saw himself not as a man missing a part of himself, but as a man capable of incredible resilience. Days later, traders from the colony arrived to inspect the crops. They brought offers to buy grains, vegetables, and seeds from the farm. The prices were higher than Ryan had expected. The traders were impressed not only by the harvest, but by the efficiency and care with which the land was maintained. "Your farm is extraordinary," one trader said. "It has survived storms and attacks, yet it produces more than most in the region." Ryan glanced at Liren. She nodded slightly, her eyes soft. "It is the work of both of us," Ryan said. "Not just me." The traders looked surprised. "You have a partner?" "Yes," Ryan said. "She came from far away to help me rebuild this land. Without her, none of this would have been possible." Liren smiled faintly. "I only guided him. The work is his." The traders left with orders to return, promising more trade and support for the coming months. Ryan felt a wave of relief. For the first time, the farm was not just surviving. It was thriving. One evening, after a long day of work, Ryan and Liren sat by the small pond near the barn. The water reflected the stars above, and the air was filled with soft night sounds. "Do you ever regret leaving your world?" Ryan asked quietly. Liren shook her head. "No. I learned what wealth truly means. It is not in gold medals or titles. It is in the life we build, the care we give, and the people we protect." Ryan smiled. "Then you found wealth here?" "Yes," she said. "And I found someone who understands it." He looked at her and felt warmth he had not known for years. The loneliness that had haunted him for so long had finally ended. He no longer felt powerless or broken. With Liren beside him, he felt strong, capable, and alive. The farm grew even more productive in the following months. Machines that had once been broken were now fully functional, upgraded with Liren's knowledge. The soil produced multiple harvests, and the local colony traders began visiting more often. News of the resilient farm spread across Arden. Other settlers came to learn from Ryan and Liren, studying their techniques and gaining inspiration. Ryan's neighbors, who had doubted his ability to recover, now came seeking advice. He taught them the lessons he had learned: hard work, patience, and the willingness to rise after failure. Lirian taught them new methods from her home planet. Together, humans and alien techniques combined to produce fields that no storm or fire could destroy easily. The farm became a center of life. Children from nearby colonies came to help with planting, learning, and care for the animals. Visitors were amazed at the harmony between human effort and Lirian's guidance. One day, Ryan walked through the fields with Lirian. He touched the leaves of the plants, feeling the strength in the soil beneath his feet. "It feels like a miracle," he said. "It is not magic," she said. "It is hope, effort, and care. You never gave up, even when the fire returned. That is what makes this place alive," Ryan nodded. "Then our work is not over yet. We will keep it alive, always." One morning, a courier arrived with a message. It was from the Veyran Trade Guild. The letter carried gratitude for Lirian's efforts in helping the farm survive. It also contained a note. "Your choice to stay and build life on Arden is respected. The guild will support you silently should you ever need it." Lirian read the message aloud. "They will not interfere. They respect the life we are building here." Ryan felt proud. "You could have gone back, taken everything with you. But you stayed." "I stayed because this is where I belong," she said softly. "Not because of the land or the crops, but because of you and this home we are creating." For the first time, Ryan felt that he had someone who understood the meaning of partnership. Together they had survived storms, fire, and pirates. Together they had rebuilt the land. And together they would protect it forever. Weeks passed and the farm continued to flourish. Lirian's past remained hidden to outsiders, and the Veyran support stayed discreet. Pirates had learned never to return to Arden after the last defeat. The farm became a symbol of resilience for the colony. Humans and visitors alike admired the way a one-armed man and his alien partner had turned loss into life. At night, Ryan and Lirian would sit under the stars, watching the fields shimmer in silver moonlight. The twin moons reflected off the water in the pond, and the wind carried the scent of crops and fresh earth. Ryan felt gratitude for every day, every plant, and every moment of companionship. "You made me see hope again," Ryan said one evening. "You already had it," Lirian replied. "I only helped you find it." Ryan looked at her and smiled. "Then we will grow it together." "Yes," she said. "Together, always." The farm, once burned and lifeless, now stood tall. Its fields stretched wide and green. The machines hummed in harmony. Birds, insects, and small animals returned. The humans who visited learned courage, effort, and unity. And for Ryan, the farm became more than land. It became a testament to what humans could achieve even after loss, with determination, hope, and friendship across worlds.